Hey, everybody. We're very excited for the next installment in our series where we partner with state guilds to take a closer look and dive into their current successes, challenges, and state level trends. So often we have a strong pulse on what's going on in our home states and even on the national level. And we hope these conversations can offer you with valuable insights into what your next door neighbors and not so nearby states are facing. So today we're talking Ohio, and let's meet our guest. And Justin, you're to the right of me. Can you tell us a little bit more about what you do in Ohio beer?
Sure. My name is Justin Hemminger. I'm the Deputy Director of the Ohio Craft Brewers Association. I've been with the Guild since 2017 when I was hired on by my boss, Mary MacDonald, who's down there from me.
We're going to learn more about your journey into the world of Ohio beer shortly. But next, let's meet John.
Hey, everybody. John Haggerty, founder and brewmaster for Warped Wing Brewing Company. Been involved in the beer industry since 93 and been here at Warped Wing since 2014.
And about how many cans do you have behind yourself, John?
A lot. That's our QC repository in the office where we age everything. We hold everything through the date code date. And then that's where we pull our samples for all our lab testing and so forth.
Awesome. Well, thanks for being here. Carmone, you're up.
Hi, Carmone from the Phoenix Brewing Company in Mansfield, Ohio. I do the creative and marketing there, and I currently serve on the board. I'm in my fourth year, and I also serve on the marketing and events committees and help out when I can.
And you've been on multiple CBP panels and given talks before, so always great to have you.
Thank you.
And Mary, wonderful to see you.
Good to see you, Andrew. I'm Mary MacDonald. I'm the Executive Director of the Ohio Craft Brewers Association, and I have been with the Guild since September 3rd, 2013, the day after Labor Day.
September 3rd, like that is so exact.
Right?
Congrats on 11 years.
It was a monumental occasion that I joined the Guild, and I'm thrilled to still be here.
So when you joined the Guild about 11 years ago, there was only 60 or so breweries in Ohio. Now it's up to over 400.
58 again, 440 now.
How did you end up at the Guild?
So I created a little beer festival at the North Market, which was my former job, a public market in Columbus, Ohio. And when we started, it was the Columbus Microbrew Festival in, I think it was 2009, and there were 6 breweries in Columbus. Justin probably has a better handle on how many breweries are in Columbus now, or at least on the central Columbus portion of our app. But that grew every year. Then there were 8 breweries, then there were 12 breweries. And around 2013, Eric Bean from Columbus Brewing Company was the president of what was then called OCBA, the Ohio Craft Brewers Association. They called it OCBA. And was like, hey, we're all doing this stuff part-time while we also run breweries. We really need somebody to do the things of a day-to-day organization. You know some stuff about nonprofit organizations. Talk to us about that. And then they were like, yep, we need a director. They did a whole, collect all the resumes. And I guess mine floated to the top.
But when you took that position back then, did you stop saying ACBA? You made a kind of reference that maybe you didn't use it anymore.
It was the OCBA. I feel like that the board at the time referred to it as the OCBA, and some people who had been involved when it was NOCBA, the Northern Ohio Craft Brewers Association, had just knocked the N off and called it ACBA. But we've pretty much embraced OCBA.
Got it. So looking at the OCBA these days, what are the goals of the Guild?
Oh man, we're just gonna jump right into it. Well, we do a strategic plan every year with our board. So we put everything in the buckets of what we want to get done. Right at the top by alphabetical order is advocacy. And so reforming the franchise laws of Ohio are at the top of that list.
And we're going to dive into that a little bit later today. Now, Justin, I know you just got back from an epic road trip visiting 30 Major League Baseball stadiums. We can talk about that some other time, but I am curious how you ended up working at the OCBA.
Well, I have a background in communications and marketing. I've spent 7 years working in political merchandise fundraising. That was my background, pretty much from 2006 to 2012, 2013, somewhere around there. And then the company I was working for downsized, as happens, and I went looking for other adventures and kind of fell in love with beer and craft beer and Ohio breweries. And I had a little stake in a bar here in Columbus. Got to know a lot of people in the industry through that. And when I finally got to the point where bar hours weren't jiving with my my personal life, looking for something a little closer to a 9 to 5 or an 8 to 6 or a 7 to 7 or something like that. I started looking around, and Mary had put out the call for a second person to join the staff, and like she said, put my resume in, and it floated to the top, and here we are.
Very cool. Now, Carmen, I know you're busy running a brewery by day, but you also volunteer in the guild board. Why is this something that you've decided to do?
I think it's important. The guild has really worked hard to create opportunities and has unified our industry in Ohio. It's an organization and it's a community that gives back. It's important to be a part of that, and it's important to be able to kind of just give back to our community in general. Being on the board allows us to kind of find out more about what different breweries, different parts of the state need or help, and how we can kind of help or do more.
No, awesome. Now, John, you've mentioned being in the industry. Was it since 1994?
Yeah, 93, but yeah, for a minute. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that is amazing. First off, and you're a former board member and you're current chair of the OCBA Advocacy Committee.
Yep.
Why is being involved with the guild important to you?
Well, throughout my career, first of all, I think brewing as an industry, craft brewing in particular, has been one where you do a lot of, handing knowledge down, a lot of internship, apprenticeship. You learn by doing and through the gifts of other people's knowledge. And so there's always been this notion of giving back and paying that forward. So to me, that's sort of fundamental to the whole craft brewing scene, whether it's beer or whether it's participating in these guilds or whether it's advocating for legislative improvements. So that's the first thing. Second, going back into the late 90s when I worked in Minnesota, I founded the Craft Brewers Guild there in Minnesota and was the first president. Then I spent time working in Michigan, and I had guys on that team that were doing stuff with the Michigan Brewers Guild. So I did a lot of stuff with the MBAA, which is more technical stuff. And then when I came to Ohio, first of all, Mary put the hard press on me, so that was hard to say no to. And I already had that history of involvement, and I enjoy it, frankly. It can be a lot of work, particularly the advocacy committee. Can be a bit trying, and maybe we'll hit on some of those things that we've had to deal with. But it's enjoyable, right? Seeing the fruits of that labor and how it manifests itself in the overall beer scene here in Ohio is fantastic.
No, very cool. Thanks for sharing that. And it's been really fun to watch the growth of beer in Ohio. And we're going to dive into more about that in just a second. But before we even think Ohio beer as a whole, what is the state of Ohio known for? I would love to just go around the circle. You can say a sentence, shout out one word. Like when someone thinks Ohio, what are they thinking?
There's a little football team in my city that everybody seems to think of.
I was going
Got a nice chocolate peanut butter candy that goes along with it.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
There's some football game next week, not this weekend, but the following weekend that I hear is a big deal. Against some
one this weekend might actually be a bigger deal this year. It's not normally. They're playing, Ohio State's playing Indiana on Saturday, and whoever wins that will probably represent their side of the Big Ten in the championship game. So this Saturday is actually a bigger game than the Michigan game this year. So
it sounds like you might not be working that day.
Well, it's Saturday, so I'm hoping maybe I have to come in and check tanks or something and do some quality control checks on the faucets,
Wait, were you just at that university last week?
What's that?
Were you just at that university last week?
Yeah, so my son is a junior in high school this year, and in addition to Ohio State and Ohio University and Miami University and University of Dayton. He is also potentially interested in attending Indiana University. So we were over in Bloomington last week. Yes. So everybody over there is all fired up about it. I can tell you that. It's the first time Indiana's been any good in football in almost 60 years.
So we can leave it at Ohio's known for, football and really great beers. The two things, all we need to know.
Yeah, I mean, we are known for really great beer, right? I mean, Great Lakes opened in 1988. I was just barely graduating high school, and we had our first craft brewery that's still here, right?
Yep.
So when did beer really take off in Ohio? Is there a certain time period you all can pinpoint where it just had that sort of explosion? And if so, what were the factors contributing to that at that time?
So there were 58 breweries again when I started, and then within I think about 18 months there were 100, and then within another 18 months there were 200. And I think one of the things that explosion happened nationwide, right? But Ohio put some laws into place that I think really enhanced the opportunities for our citizenship. That was right before I started in July of 2013. They created the A1C license for craft, and they knocked down the price of a manufacturing license to 25% of what it had been to $1,000. And then, whereas before you had to buy a brew pub license if you wanted to also serve your beer, they included the opportunity to sell the beer that you produce on those premises at your tap room. And then they also allowed self-distribution up to 1 million barrels of beer.
Yeah.
So all those things sort of just let it take off, right? You could spend $1,000 to get a license. That could be for a 1-barrel system. That could be for a 30-barrel system, right? There was no distinction or discrimination against how much beer you were going to brew, and away you went. So some people started small and grew gradually, and some people, like John, started with the intention to open a producing and distributing brewery.
That's so impressive because, Ohio nationally now, I mean, we know it as a place with tons of great beer cities. So it's been really cool to watch the rise as someone not from Ohio, all these hubs popping up within your state that people know and they recognize certain breweries there and they become places they want to visit.
Yeah. If I say Columbus, you'll have a brewery. If I say Cleveland, you'll have Cincinnati, right? I mean, there are definitely breweries that are well known in our state, and they hold their own nationwide, as evidenced by awards taken home at the Craft Brewers at the World Beer Cup and the GABF.
Yeah, Mary, I often talk about cities, let's say like Charlotte, North Carolina. Obviously not in Ohio, but it's a city a decade ago we weren't thinking about as a beer city. Now it's a huge beer city. I put places like, the Columbus, Cincinnati's, Cleveland's in that bucket as well, because you might not have been thinking about them then, but they're now that level of beer city.
Yeah, and places like Cleveland, Cincinnati, Columbus to an extent, all have really deep brewing history too. Yeah, and it's a culture that today's brewers can tap into. Seeing that, if you've ever been to Cincinnati and taken the tour through the old lagering tunnels in over the Rhine, it's fascinating. Beer is such a big part of the culture here.
No, that's really interesting. I got to go to those caves. They sound amazing. But John and Carmen, you both opened your breweries in 2014. Kind of looking back to when you first opened versus now, what are some of the noticeable differences in the landscape?
Go ahead, Carmen. You can.
Okay, for us, I think it's different because we started in 2014 with a small tap room with a 5-barrel system. And originally we only had 2 fermenters, and we grew that to max out the space in our first brew system in that small little brewery, and we wound up expanding into the next door with a 20-barrel system next door within 2 years. I think some of the changes, it's not just it kind of ebbs and flows every year. It's a little different. Our growth was kind of really big, and it's pretty steady. It's still steady now. But that kind of ramp up in the very beginning is different than the ramp up now with industry changes, with, community changes.
John, how about you? What are your thoughts on where the landscape was in 2014 versus where we are today?
Well, it's been an interesting 10 years, I'm sure anyone you asked would say the exact same thing, right? I mean, generational pandemic that you have to get through. We've had a couple other challenges ourselves that seem unique along the way, staffing issues and so forth. So it's been an interesting set of challenges for sure, a lot of which, you don't expect going in. But I think the main thing in terms of beer is just there's a lot of us now, right? A lot more than when we started, certainly. We were not the first brewery in Dayton to open. There had been a few here before that had closed or in the area. There were 2 that were open here in Dayton when we opened, but we were the first one that was really packaging beer to go into the wholesale market. And of course, now I think just in Dayton, there's 15 or 20 breweries. And although we think of Dayton as a top shelf city culturally, from a population standpoint, we're probably in the second or even third tier of cities in Ohio. So we don't get as much press as, say, Cincy, Columbus, and Cleveland does. But we do our own. We do hold our own. But that market's now been divided down, right? You look at Columbus and Cincinnati and Cleveland, population centers of multiple millions of people. In Dayton, you're looking at maybe 800,000 or 1 million people. So it's a little bit different ball game, but it all works sort of the same. We're seeing the same phenomenon nationally, regionally, and locally, right? Which is the pie stayed kind of the same size, but there's a lot more people sticking their fork in it now.
And with that happening, just the sheer number of breweries we have now versus then, beer is such a collaborative industry, but how would you say the sense of camaraderie has maintained as we've seen more breweries pop up, specifically in Ohio?
Yeah, I think from my perspective, I think it's maintained fairly well. I mean, you're always going to have a couple of outlying groups that don't want to participate and get involved. That's been the case from the beginning. But I think for the most part, everybody recognizes that we're stronger as an industry if we stay together, and fighting amongst ourselves isn't gonna help anybody.
I think the guild has really helped to kind of facilitate the unity that we have within our industry. It's something where there's so many opportunities provided to either learn together, work together, collaborate together, whether it's on beers or for different causes. It just provides avenues for us to kind of continue to work together and be unified.
I mean, at the end of the day, all the breweries and tap rooms, they want to sell beer and have higher revenue and just be successful. And to do that, you have to educate all of your state's residents on the value of what you're doing. So looking at all the consumer-facing efforts you all are doing in Ohio, what are some of the ones you're most proud of that are helping attract people to Ohio beer?
The Ohio on Tap app is probably the biggest public outreach thing that we have working for us. We've got just north of 46,000 users on this app. Wow. We launched back in 2017.
46,000.
Statewide brewery passport app. Every user has a 3-year window to go and get as many virtual stamps as they can from as many Ohio breweries as they can visit, and we send them little reward prizes as they hit certain milestones along the way. And we measure how many stamps each location is issuing, and we can tell our membership. This is how we sell it back to the membership is the ROI you're getting just off of the traffic from the app is. Look, for 95% of our members is covering your dues expense. What the money you're paying us to be part of this app, you're getting it back 2, 3, 4 times over. And then all the other stuff that we do for you is essentially for free. So it's a pretty good deal for everybody.
So Justin, I have 2 questions to go down the app rabbit hole for a minute. How do you get that many people to download it? What strategies are motivating them to put yet another app on their phone?
We saw most of the growth in the user base around the time that we launched it. passport programs are really popular in Ohio. Most of the big cities have one. Dayton has one that the Brewers run themselves. We had a private group here in Columbus that had that ran a passport booklet and still does. Cleveland and Akron have passports that are run through their convention and visitors bureaus. We just kind of rode that wave. People want to get out and they want to go to as many places as they can. And experience, all the beers that are available out there. So I think we just kind of hit a moment, when we launched it, where people were being really adventurous, and we put some marketing push behind it. We put some press push behind it to kind of keep it, to keep letting people know that it's out there. And yeah, I mean, it's as far as we know, it's the most used statewide or state level brewery passport app there is.
If you have a state brewery passport app that has more users than that, reach out. We'll feature you next month.
And I'll be happy to say we're second, but we're coming for you.
Yeah. So like John and Carmen, like on your end, I'd love to kind of hear your thoughts on the app and like how you get your staff excited about it too.
Carmen?
Right now, we actually have a statewide campaign to encourage guests in our tap rooms to stamp their passport with their visit. And we're encouraging breweries to educate their staff and to encourage them to kind of talk to people about the Ohio Untapped app and just the benefits that it has, and just getting to visit all of the different breweries in Ohio. I shared this with Mary and Justin last week at our local guild meeting, or our quarterly guild meeting, excuse me. And we have, a couple of staff members who have finished that passport. People love it. They want to go to different breweries. They want to support the industry. They love to go get craft beer, and they really love to try to go for these amazing prizes that are part of the app as well. One of our members is, one of our staff members is going for a sweatshirt, and she has every weekend she has picked a city and she goes down and she tries to hit 10 to 15 breweries in a couple of days, and she's absolutely loving it. She comes back and she brings back beer for the staff to try. I mean, that's part of it, just being able to go out and travel the state, try new things, meet new people, and getting the free stuff as a bonus on top of all of that.
When we go to events, we've got a branded tent. And usually we're there selling merch, and half the time people, they don't care about the merch. They're like, are you with the Ohio Untap app? Can I stamp my passport here?
That is a success story. No, it's really cool to hear that, because in calls with other states, I haven't been able to talk about apps that much, but they're such a cool tool to get that loyalty, get that awareness out there, and motivate people to visit all of the breweries. But you also do a lot of other cool things. I mean, in May, you have Ohio Untap Week. Talk to us a little bit more about what goes into that.
Well, yeah, that's kind of tied into the app itself. Like the state doesn't have
everything is app, isn't
right?
it?
I mean, yeah. If we can tie everything together, we're going to tie everything together. The state doesn't really have like a craft beer week, like a unified Ohio craft beer week. There's Ohio Brew Week in Athens, which has been going on it'll be 20 years this year. But it's localized in Athens. Like all the breweries from around the state, not all, but a lot of breweries from around the state will go down to do events, in Southeast Ohio in Athens for that. But like there isn't one, unified statewide beer week. And we used to run Columbus Craft Beer Week, which we kind of let go by the wayside. Primarily because this app has done such a good job of getting people out and about, and and getting people excited about craft beer. Like we want to get more people using the app. We want to get the people who are using the app to go and revisit some of the places that they've been. So what we do for a week and 2 weekends on either side is any brewery who's on the app, so any OCBA member can post events in the app, and then we create a bonus stamp for the passport that people can go out and get. So like if you've been to all 4 Warped Wing locations, and you can't get any more stamps there until your current passport expires, if they've got events going on during that week, you can go back out to all those places and get a bonus. And then kind of work your way up the leaderboard and earn some more stuff. And then during that week, we also do our statewide collaboration beer from the heart. That'll be year 5 of that next year. We started that back in 2021, right after COVID, when we were looking for our events were not fully back up yet, so we were looking for some ways to finance our mission as a guild, and that collaboration beer, we usually have about 50 or 60 Ohio breweries be part of that, and we have brewers make a recipe. John did it one year, and everybody can do a different spin on it if they want, or follow it to the letter, and everybody puts their beers out at the same time, and people can go around and try different versions of the same beer.
Is there any story or significance to the name from the heart?
Well, Ohio is kind of a heart shape. If you look at us on a map, or look at behind Mary's head there, there you go. It was a contest amongst our membership to name the beer, and Krista Alvarado from Fork Creek Brewery in Defiance, Ohio, submitted from the heart, and that ended up being the winner. So we've stuck with that for 5 years now.
Awesome. Now, you also do a festival during this week as well. Can you talk to us a little bit more about that?
So we got mystery beer date now is what we're doing, and it's speed dating but with beer. So we have 15 breweries who bring a beer, and then we have groups of up to 10 people, and we start them all at a table with a brewery, and it's that brewery rep's job to be charming and try to woo you. And because at the end of the night, we vote on the best beer and the best date. And so everybody gets to vote, right? And so it's kind of fun. The feedback from people is like, it's such one-on-one attention with the breweries that the people who attend it love it. And then the breweries love it because they get immediate feedback on that beer. So, some people will bring a new beer just to have it, here's the best, little sampling group you can have. You're going to have 150 people come through. Right? They're going to tell you how they feel about it. If you win at the end of the night, you got a hit. That's
a really cool idea. Mary, are you the one who thought of it?
I believe the Iowa Guild thought of it, and then we made it our own.
And how many times have you done it thus far?
We've done it for 2 years now.
That's a really engaging event. I like the concept.
People really like it. Yeah, and the breweries go all out, right? They get a table that's just a blank table, but then they set it for a date. Like, one brewery rep made a cake to share with their date. Someone put candles up. Somebody wrote a song once and sang on their ukulele to them, and that was the winner for that one, right? It's kind of fun, right? You get to sort of be creative and do something outside of the norm for a beer tasting, because we've all done and we host them, right? We host events where you turn over your tickets and you get a sample of beer, and you might get to talk to the beer rep or the brewer. But this was just way more intimate an experience, and people really liked it.
Yes, sounds like a really good one. So looking at other consumer-facing events that you all do throughout the year, is there anything else that you're pretty excited about and proud of?
Yeah, well, our big event is Winter Warmer Fest, and I believe we're coming up on number 18 on March 1st. And that is an event that, again, I've only been with the Guild for 11 years, so we inherited that from the Cleveland breweries. It's at the old Powerhouse, which is where Rock Bottom Brewery used to be when it was in Cleveland, and so they started this event, and we keep going. We usually have about 55 to 60 breweries participate every year. Those brewery spaces go almost immediately. We'll put tickets on sale on Black Friday next week with a discount, and we'll sell a bunch of tickets the first day, and then usually sell that event out. And it's true to its name. It's Winter Warmer Fest. It's in Cleveland in March, so it might be in a snowstorm, or it might be 60 degrees and sunny out as you're standing by the banks of the Cuyahoga River. We just don't know. But we've got a cask section outside. People usually send some really cool stuff too, one-off beers that they make just for that event. And the people of Cleveland, it's known amongst the Cleveland beer geeks. That's their festival. That's what they want to go to. Our breweries love it. They try to one-up each other. And it's definitely like a Northeast Ohio brewery family reunion every year. And it's really fun to see.
So, as we all know, festivals are struggling in lots of places across the country. But I think the way you just summed it up as like a Northeast Ohio brewery family reunion, that seems to be the why people want to go to that. Would you say that's correct?
Well, you made the fantastic beer, obviously, Andrew. Yeah.
I mean, what's a beer now?
Well, yeah.
Beer?
But I mean, the people are so excited because, again, I mean, people walk up to me like, "Oh my God, you're Mary!" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm Mary. Can we take a selfie with you?" Sure. No idea who you are, but yeah, let's take a selfie. So, yes, it's a riot.
That doesn't happen to me at Oktoberfest.
You just look like a brewer.
I think something about that beer fest, though, is that there's such a huge following. There are people that have gone, we know people that have gone 9 years in a row or 8 years in a row, and they're waiting. They have alarms. Some of our customers have alarms set in their phones for Thanksgiving with winter warmer tickets today to remind them to get their tickets and to keep watching for it. It truly has a huge following, and it's if I can say this, I'm going to say it. It is the best beer fest in Ohio. Or I should say it's our favorite beer fest in Ohio. I might get in trouble for saying that, but it's true. It is our favorite.
How many people come out to it?
It's about 1,800 people. I mean, in terms of beer fest, it's not the biggest, but you're on you are downtown. It's beautiful scenery. It's great beer. Windows on the River is just such a beautiful venue. It's normally a wedding venue, and for some reason they've let us come back and spill beer on their carpets year after year and still let us come back. And so,
Sounds
we appreciate it.
Time. So let's flip it up for a minute, because obviously you all are doing a killer job of bringing Ohio beer lovers together for events and giving them reasons to support Ohio breweries. But I'd love to learn more about how you're bringing your brewers together. Talk to us a little bit about, say, the Ohio Brewers Conference and any other efforts you have to bring your members, face to face.
Well, Carmen just pointed out we had a meeting a week ago, 2 weeks ago, a week ago. Yeah. We do quarterly meetings. We try to move them around the state, right? So we just had one in Akron, Ohio at Missing Falls Brewery. We had about 70 or so people there, right? And we sort of talk about what the organization's doing. That time we had a Q&A with our board. What do you need from the organization? How can we help you? Because that's our whole mission, right? Is to be here for our brewery members. The next one we have coming up is going to be in January. So we'll do our Q1 meeting to kick off the Ohio Craft Brewers Conference. It'll be January 27th through 29th in Columbus, Ohio. And so that's really the beer industry family reunion, because we'll have a trade show with 100 and so vendors. We'll have hundreds of brewery people there to learn, to network, right? And to just sort of check the pulse of how everyone's feeling and where the industry's going. We've got Kate Bernat from Sightlines, and then Dr. J from the BA is our keynote speakers.
You just read my mind, Mary. That was going to be my next question to ask you, who was giving those.
We've got 2 women giving our keynotes this year. Pretty pumped about that. Right. And then, we get people together at Winter Warmerfest. We do our annual meeting in June. That's usually somewhere central because we do board votes at the same time. So it's usually our board elections. And so we find it's easier to get people to come sort of central to do the vote thing. And then we usually have an informal trade show with that too. So we got a lot more of our industry partners who come out. We do monthly brewery visits, and then we tack on a happy hour about after every other one of those. And then you've got regional brewery meetings. John's got a great group in Dayton that get together about every month or so. We go out to those every once in a while when we can make it. Our job is to unify. One of the parts of our mission is to unify the craft brewing industry, and having people proximate to each other and talking about what's working and what's not working is, really helpful, I think, or at least commiserating, right?
It's so important. So John, being in the industry for quite some time, why is going to conferences still important to you?
Well, the best part of going to any conference, whether it's the winter conference here in Ohio or whether it's the CBC or something of that nature, is the camaraderie with the other brewers, right? I've been doing this long enough now that I feel like I've seen most of the topics a few times. So the seminars are always good. Sometimes there's something in there that you haven't heard before, but usually what it is there's a spark that creates a conversation between yourself and one of the other attendees. And You get talking about how you manage certain issues in the brewery or certain techniques or what have you. And that starts down a path and you never know where that's going to lead to. And that's really where, in my opinion, the most learning happens is outside of the presentation. Presentation is the spark. The conversation after with your fellow attendees is the learning.
100%, John. And I could kick myself for asking this, but have we met in person yet?
I don't know. Maybe.
I honestly don't know.
I don't know, man. I'm getting to the point where I can't. My hard drive's filling up. Right. It's just hard for me to keep track.
No, that's all good. In Ohio, you all do that Ohio Brewers Conference, but you also do a women's summit. I believe the first one was last year. Is that correct, Mary?
Yeah, the first one was last year. We held it in Columbus. We just finished a women's summit meeting 2 hours ago, and we're looking at Cincinnati for 2025. Our theme for last year was eclipsing stereotypes because we held it on the Sunday before the massive eclipse came through Ohio. So that was kind of fun. Carmone did our fantastic design for that. And then we're going to do that again April 5th this year down in Cincinnati. We're just finalizing like the where of where we're going to have it, specifically which brewery.
And this is for Ohio attendees, or do people come from across to attend?
It's pretty much for Ohio attendees. So, you know, International Women's Day is March 8th, and then there's always brews that either happen on March 8th or in order to launch the beer on March 8th. And as director, I've had the privilege of being invited to a bunch of brews around the state. And it's just such a great atmosphere. And so like, it's just so uplifting to have all the women in the industry from that region together. And then they're making great beer. And I was like, I want all of you to have the same experience. How do we get all of you in the room sharing your beer with each other that you made for International Women's Day? And that was kind of the seed of the idea for the Women's Summit. And so we had 18 breweries participate last year, and it was just a really cool vibe. And I think it was supportive to the people who attended. And as soon as it was over, everyone was like, well, when are we doing it next? Like, do we get to do this again? Like, absolutely, we can do it again. We raised $3,000. We want to start a scholarship that we're going to launch in January, just for educational purposes, to help people continue to grow and learn and enhance their knowledge in the industry. And so that's the plan, to do it again, hopefully make money to continue the scholarship.
You all are doing cool things in Ohio to bring people together for sure.
We try.
Now let's switch it up to like the brewing side of things. And John, I might lean on you first on this one. You know, certain parts of the country have different trends that you see pop up that they're known for. Is there anything unique you're seeing in the Ohio brewing scene right now?
I think that a couple of years ago, the thing that was getting a lot of notoriety in Ohio was coffee beers, which is kind of obscure and in weird. And I don't know how that came to be a thing for Ohio, because we don't grow coffee here in Ohio. But a lot of the brewers were making coffee beer. We've made coffee beer in the past. So that's sort of been the thing. I don't know. You guys might know some other trends, but
everybody's launched a light lager right now.
Well, yeah. So there is. Yeah, that's true.
Lower ABV.
Yeah, everybody's making light lager right now. There's been this big push recently with there's a lot of universities in colleges in Ohio, and so been a lot of partnering between breweries and universities, particularly for their NIL sports programs. So it's interesting to see that happen. We do that as well here with the University of Dayton.
That is interesting. And outside of coffee, are there any other ingredients grown? Sorry, I was trying not to laugh, Mary. Are there any other ingredients grown in Ohio that are often used in beer?
Often, I think, is a big statement, right? Often that's an interesting word. I mean, there's malt, there's barley that's grown here, and hops, obviously. But the sort of offbeat ingredient that you can find is also available in Michigan is pawpaw, grown here in Ohio.
I had my first pawpaw about 2 months ago. I saw a random event about an hour from me. They were having a pawpaw festival. They gave you little bags. You went in the woods. You shake them down. You might have
Yeah.
got poison ivy.
The
I'm
original
not sure.
Pawpaw Festival, I'm pretty sure, is in Athens, Ohio. You can come out, and I think
It was so
September,
much
October.
fun. But is the process to get pawpaw in beers, John? It seems like it might be a pain.
Oh, it's a pain. Yeah. So when I've used it, we haven't done it. Well, we haven't done it at all here at Warped Wing, to be honest with you. I've done it in collab beers with other breweries, at their breweries. Usually what we will do is we will contract with the fruit supplier to have the pawpaw already somewhat processed, so that it's a little bit easier to use. If you're trying to take the raw pawpaw out of the field, then you got a lot of work in front of you.
Does anybody have any good pawpaw beer names you want to share?
I can't think of one off the top of my head.
We'll save that to next time. So, outside of, we're seeing more light lagers and some of the unique ingredients that you all have shared, are there any just like general trends we're seeing in Ohio right now? I mean, a lot of states are seeing kind of flat levels of brewery openings versus closures. They're seeing some mergers and acquisitions. Anything that you're seeing happening a lot within your state?
I mean, I think we're following national trends for the most part.
Yeah,
We've opened 41 breweries this year, and we've closed 29 breweries, and those numbers are closer than they've ever been in the past. We've seen some mergers and acquisitions, but our job is to support whoever's out there, whatever they're doing, and that's what we try to do.
Yeah.
So let's talk about what you're fighting for legislatively. So Justin and Mary, like, what are the things right now that you're really working towards?
Oh, there's just one thing, Andrew. It's franchise law modernization. And John can get on the soapbox way better than I can because he works directly with distributors. Whereas we just, I work with the legislators to try to help change the law. And I think this is definitely a trend in all states because most of the states have a franchise law. And it wasn't a problem until we had thousands of breweries in the United States, a number of which are signing distribution contracts with wholesalers. And it's all fun and games and everything is rosy and it's a honeymoon state until things go poorly. And if they go poorly, then you're trapped in that relationship with your wholesaler. So
go
ahead, Chad.
Well, it's really sort of the third part of the beer industry. And it's the part that is most opaque to consumers. I mean, consumers know retailers, obviously, and consumers know manufacturers. It's pretty obvious who those two groups are to all the consumers. But consumers don't know how manufacturers, breweries, and retailers have to function together and who they have to go through. And the wholesalers, in most circumstances, have become the de facto gatekeeper to the market. And it creates problems in who gets represented, who has shelf space, et cetera, who's being, who's getting airtime. And, if you're not being provided the service that you think that your company deserves, there isn't a lot of recourse. Because the way that franchise law works, not just here in Ohio, but in most states in the U.S., it prohibits you from being able to leave the distribution agreement. So you're stuck forever. They own your brand in perpetuity. Now, they being the wholesalers would contend that people get out of these contracts all the time, but they only get out by the magnanimity of the wholesaler. The wholesaler has to grant you permission to leave. Otherwise, you can't. That's a problem. No other industry on the planet is subject to that.
So we got two bills at the Ohio State House right now, one in the House and one in the Senate, which in itself is a huge, huge accomplishment. But we're going into lame duck. We've had 2 hearings on each. We need a third hearing in order to get a vote on that. The third hearing is generally opponent testimony, and funny thing, the wholesalers aren't banging on the doors of the committee chairs to have that third hearing. So we're not sure what's going to shake out, but we're not going away. So we'll start again with the next assembly if we have to in January.
Well, power to you for fighting for all that. It's so important. So looking at things you're excited about just generally, whether it's beer industry, whether it's Ohio, looking into 2025, what's getting you excited? Each of you, I'd love to kind of hear, when you wake up in the mornings, what's motivating you to keep going? In the beer side of things, of course.
Well, okay, I'll go first. I like beer. So it's kept me going for 32, 33 years, and I love it. And the way we work here at Warped Wing, my partner Nick runs the sales and marketing side of our company. So we will sit down and discuss, the forecast and whatever we're going to do for the next year. And so it always excites me when we have new stuff on the agenda that we haven't done in the past. So next year we have a series of 4 double IPAs that we're going to make that are all new, that come out quarterly. So I'm looking forward to that. We've already started buying some new hop varieties that we haven't had a chance to play with in our regular core beers that we're going to try in some of these. And it also gives me a chance to play with some techniques that we might not use currently in our standard IPA, because I don't know how it's going to impact the end result. So I can try some new stuff technique wise. And, if it doesn't work out, it's like, well, that was a one-off. So, and if it works out great, then you start to figure out how to employ it in your regular beer. So I'm really looking forward to that in the next year. That's what's got me fired up right now.
Love it.
Yeah.
I think for me, I spent 20 years in education, and the thing that I love about craft beer, I transitioned out of that career into this one, and it's basically the same thing that John said. It's the creative, the kind of creative production lines and the creativity that the industry has. It's the same thing that I loved about education, but being able to come in and create a product or help be a part of that product, that there's people that they absolutely love it, or they tell you if they don't love it. I mean, they'll be honest. I don't like that hop. It was too bitter, or it was a little too citrusy for me. But it's just this great environment that people get to try new things. They get to work with other people, and you get to do that every single day, which is awesome. It's an amazing feeling.
Yeah, the feedback is immediate. That is one of the really great parts of this industry, I think.
I look forward to our conference every year because it's a little family reunion. But particularly, it's coming back to Columbus, and I live in Columbus, and so it's a little bit of extra pride because I get to share the city that I love with all these people that from around the state that I also like a lot, and get to show them a good time and show off what our city has to offer. So I think that's usually, we run nonstop as a guild from January through about June, and so I got to get excited about the conference, and then we're gonna get excited about Winter Warm Fest, and then we're gonna get excited about the Women's Festival. We're getting excited about the annual meeting. And the collaboration beer and oh my God, is it June yet? Yeah.
You're full-time event planners.
Yeah, and I think that kind of speaks to what kind of keeps me going and gets me excited is we do the conference and we do Winter Warmer. We do all these things in a row. And it's never always enough. Because ultimately our job is to support all of our members, to support this industry. And when we get that feedback from members, hey, we could use this resource, or it would be cool if we could do, this kind of event or something like that. Those are things that, we can take on, through our committees, through our board, through our staff, and figure out how can we provide the best service. And it's if there's something that makes sense, if there's a change we can make, or a new service or a new resource or something that we can put out there for members, that's what keeps me going is bringing up, making sure that we're up to speed with what all of our members want day in and day out.
Providing that value. No, I love that answer, Justin. So as we wind down this conversation, I've got one final question for the 4 of you all. People have short attention spans these days. They don't always take away a lot of facts. If people tuning in were to remember one thing about Ohio beer, what would you like them to remember? No repeat answers. And Mary, you get to go first on this one.
Oh man, we punch way above our weight when it comes to awards at festivals, and I am so proud of how even from our biggest breweries to our smallest breweries, I feel like you have an equal chance of winning a medal if you're making good beer at the World Beer Cup and Great American Beer Festival. And we encourage that by doing a group shipping. So we figure the more of our beer that gets out to Denver or wherever the World Beer Cup is being held or the Great American Beer Festival, then the more chances our breweries have to take home one of those coveted medals.
And get recognized and bring more good word about Ohio beer.
Get a high five, get a flag to hang up in their brewery. Yeah, absolutely.
Love it. Carmen, how about you?
I would say the craft beer community with the guild, and between industry individuals and within our our taproom patrons that come in. The community that we have with that from both sides it's just different than any other industry that you would ever find, and it's so supportive, and everybody wants to see everyone do well. They come in and they check in on everybody, and they want to help. They want to see every brewery succeed. That's hard to say. So they want to see success for everyone. So it's just a great spirit.
John?
All I can tell you is Ohio kicks ass, so you better watch out. We're coming to get you. We're coming after you.
I'll take it. Justin, take us home.
Whatever you think you know about Ohio, there's so much more to know about Ohio. The thing that I love about Ohio craft beer more than anything is that no matter where you are in the state, you're close to a brewery that's making something special. Like it might be, it might be, a lager brewery in the middle of nowhere on a farm, or it might be, somebody whose guest experience is so great, or the connection between food and beer that we see at a lot of places. No matter where you are in Ohio, you're going to get something great. And like whatever you like, if when you think of Ohio, you think of Cleveland, like there's something 180 degrees away from that that's also great, and it's also Ohio.
Okay, Justin, favorite Ohio brewery?
Not allowed to answer
that right now.
These kids using Ohio as a diss have no idea.
It's true.
It's been a while since I've been up to Ohio, but I can't wait for my next time. And conversations like this just motivate me to try to plan that trip a little bit quicker. So
January 27th to the 29th, Andrew, we got a conference coming up. Come on.
I know. I need a reason to make it up that way. I'll see what I can do. But Justin, John, Carmen, and Mary, it's been fun hanging out today. I'm sure I'll bump into you, the four of you, at some point. So thanks for sharing what you've got going on in beer. And everybody, we'll see you soon. Have a great one.
So much.
Thanks, Andrew.
Thanks. Thank you, Andrew.